All right, guys, off to the gym. Yeah, it's going to be a long day today. I know it's 11 o'clock now. Into the gym early today because I've got to finish my college course, well, my university course today. I've got to wrap it up. I've got 9 days to submit it, so I've got to get my word count to 4,000. So I've got to fluff it out a little bit. I've also got to do a presentation, and that's going to probably take me all day. But the good thing is, it means at the end of the month, I should be into my presentation, do my degree piece, and hopefully by next month, I've got my level 7 in strategic leadership, which is a useful piece. But also, it means I should, if the timing's right, be able to do my MBA in September as well. And the reason I bring it up is one of the things I do, you probably realize I'm quite methodical with stuff. So the MBA thing is ideally set up on a path of developing an idea. So although this may end up being real or not real, depends what happens at work at the moment. I can't really talk about it because it is difficult. But if my access to certain types of work become difficult, I'll probably go back to consulting. And I'm looking at the reality that local authorities in education, healthcare, even prisons, there's a lot of handbacks coming back for PFI PPP. And there is massive gaps, not little gaps, massive gaps, millions of pounds worth of gaps, pretty much on the majority of their contracts. Over the years, you have these sort of milestones, right? So your first milestone is often in the contract, which will be up to 2 years, normally the first 12 months, 18 months. You're supposed to survey properly the sites so you can assess what you actually need. So, for example, you can assess that suddenly there's a lot more equipment there than you originally agreed the contract with. You could also assess that you've took some of the architrave off the fire doors and realise there's a gaping hole, so there's no fire stopping. You may assess that there's no fire stopping above cavity walls and things like that to separate parts of the building, or fire corridors, or stairwells, or many other locations that require fire stopping. You may do the air changes and realise that many rooms don't have the correct air changes, which means you've got multiple breaches if you've got problems throughout these. And these are all a few and very common relating to what's been going on in a lot of these buildings. People haven't been doing them. A lot of them didn't do the original walk rounds. They normally do it at year 10, which is the expiry period of the builder's defect period. So you've had 10 years to look at it, and you haven't bothered your backside. And then you're getting right up to the end of the defects period, and you may have the insurance company taking a little bit of an interest to confirm that everything's fit for purpose as well. And then suddenly you look, or you don't, which means when you come to hand back, you've got some massive problems, because the problems get bigger. Because if you're a HBR, which is a HRB, high risk building, a high risk building doesn't need to be like Grenfell, a high rise building. It can also be the fact of its usage, which includes things like, say, student accommodation, medical facilities, education facilities, because they're high risk facilities. There's a lot of people in them, a lot of vulnerable people in them. So a lot of people have misinterpreted some of the legislation, and this is what I'm heavily involved in, the golden thread and stuff. That's why I was talking at the Digital Construction Week this week. So long story short, a lot of buildings aren't compliant. To go back to the NHS, to become a trust, to go back to the local authority, to go to the prison service, whatever you want to call them, because there's different ones for different things. There's about 200 due for expiry at the minute, contracts that is. And on top of that, a lot of this stuff hasn't been done. And then you get into the point of there may have been money taken out the accounts over a long period of time, because they often have like accumulations of a life cycle pot, which is built up often from what's called a BCIS model. So it's often modeled on a very generic way. I mean, the way I seen it before was taking the square meters of a building and then giving it a building type, and it would actually kick you a model out. Now, the thing I found a bit peculiar is that unless you do the bits of due diligence, there's lots of things it will miss out financially. So, for example, CHPs, which are combined heat and powers, maybe no budget for it. Solar panels, no budget for it. Sports fields, no budget for it. Okay, what else? Swimming pools, hydro pools, sort of stuff that goes in medical clinics and education facilities. May not be any budget for it. They don't exist, but they exist on the building, and I'll be expecting it when I get a hand back. So there's a lot of stuff where people haven't assessed what money was available compared to what equipment they've really got. And it's still an ongoing saga of trying to get a lot of these people to understand the risks. I do it at the minute, and I've been involved in it for a long time. And you can take a building from, say, it thinks it's got 200 assets, and suddenly it's got 3,500. And they'll go, yeah, but we're not really worried about that. You go, but you've got no budget for it. You've never had a budget for it. You never went back and said that you've added, I don't know, hand dryers over soap, what do you call it? Paper towel dispensers. Yeah, it's not a lot. You go, okay. So the ones they normally fit are the expensive Dyson ones, which were what, about 600 quid all in and fitted. So you're replacing them free of charge because you never had any money for them. So you're taking those out of the fund that never had any allocation for that, which means you took money from something that did need it. And this is the ongoing saga, because they also declare it as profit every now and again. So then money disappears. They take 3 million out, champagne party. But every allocation of money in the life cycle pot is to assets. So it's real money attached to a boiler. I took £28,000 out as a profit, but it was allocated for a boiler. That boiler is not going to last till the end of the contract. So you're still going to have to replace it. But by the time you recognize that that £28,000 boiler needs replacing, it'll be £35,000. Why? Indexation, inflation. You've got less money because you took it out and cashed it in as a bonus check. So there's a lot of this stuff going on at the minute, and there's a lot of pain coming for a lot of companies, because there's been some law cases as well which have now sort of said they can go back to the designers and stuff as well, which is going to make it even worse. Because what you're trying to do, or what I'm going to be trying to do if it ends up in this, is I'm going to be trying to get everybody to work together so we can actually get the buildings fit for purpose, legal, safe, and where people can actually go home at night not worrying that they're going to get killed at work, or the accommodation you're in is safe and not going to catch fire, and the fire alarm doesn't go off, or you can't get out because there's no fire stopping, so the building went up quicker than you could escape. This stuff is real. This is real stuff. It's real dangerous, and It says also, I've got to admit, in the last year or so, it has sort of maybe a bit more, not safety cautious. It's more a case of the importance of this is a lot higher than I sort of not recognized before, because before I wasn't too embedded in it, because before this would be a compliance manager, this would be a account decision. Providing data was my key piece. But after seeing some of the stuff I've seen over the last 10 years, I'm starting to see it more and more that if I'm not proactive on it, there ain't enough people out there that A, understand the risks they're putting other people on, but B, I've got to educate people. Because even though I finish in the industry, another Grenfell could easily happen simply because of people assuming it's not their problem, or they proactively bury it for profit, or they silence people. And everything I'm saying there is genuine. I've seen it. It's peculiar why people don't see these things as a problem until they are a problem. And I'll be honest with you, on the construction side, I've had headaches with health and safety managers myself. So I get when some people are over egging it, while at the same time won't make a decision. I'm more of a case of, we need to make the decisions. I'll find you a path out of this. Whatever money you've got, I'll find you a path to your compliance. We'll have to work out how we're going to do it. But a lot of the problems you've got is a lot of people just don't want to go there. They'll find they're isolated, they're sacked, they're pushed on. They may get a lot of push from senior people in the business to make it a profitable entity by creating the illusion of safety, or being told to basically bury it or whatever. We need to change that culture. So I think that's going to be part of my MBA stuff, to actually work out how I'm going to do that. It's weird, isn't it? It's stuff I wasn't thinking I'd get roped into, because I like just getting on with my job. But I'm starting to see that because we're losing so many technical people over yes people, and mediocre managers, and over promotion because you'll follow a certain criteria, you're starting to need people like me that will actually just go, no, it's got to change. We've got to get it right. And no, ignoring it will not solve it. What we need is actually us to work together to actually fix it. And that's me, you, and whoever. It can be the government. It could be the software companies. It could be upskilling your staff. It could be re-educating people and trying to get more people into engineering so they love it. Because I'll be honest, at the moment, I speak to engineers. Very rarely will you actually hear anybody like what they do, but very rarely have they got good management. And I do mean that in an honest opinion from the experience I've seen. Where I found a lot of people will stick to it is when they're working for companies that often have the old style of working, which is the owner is still stood next to you with coveralls on. He's there doing it with you. I would say she's doing it with you, but I'm going to be perfectly blunt. People don't want these jobs. Nobody wants to be the doer. Everybody wants to be the manager. I have not seen a woman with their coveralls on fitting a boiler, etc. It's always guys, and it's normally guys at least in their 40s. So we need to get more people into the trade. We need more people doing it. I don't care if they're a man or a woman. It's not a sexist thing. I'd actually say this whole false persona that everybody needs to be the girl boss or the manager is part of the problem, because they're not recognizing the value of the trades, because the trades are the bread and butter. The trades are what keeps you safe. The skills that those people have, companies are relying on, because they often don't have the skills in their own business anymore. Even when you're looking at a lot of these facilities management companies, they're outsourcing more and more to engineers for that are companies rather than their own staff, because their own staff haven't got the skill sets. But how does that work long term if your contract was never built to pay for those additional costs? Answers on the postcard. But anyway, that's me at the moment. That's what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm looking at, and I'm hoping to get my degree finished this month, and I'll be happy. It's another thing off my shopping list of things I need to do. But all this triggers other stuff, by the way. So, like I says, this triggers my MBA. So if I don't get this straight through the gates at the end of this month, then I can't do my MBA in September. But I may be missing the MBA anyway, because the window for it is so tight that for September I need basically my certificate for this course to then go, look, I've got my course done, please put me on the MBA. There's a good chance that I'm not going to get through that window quick enough. But I'll see where that goes, because there was another company that contacted me for an MBA with a load of project management courses tied to it, so I may go pivot to another University of Cardiff instead. But the other thing with having this degree, this is why I'll say, if you haven't got an academic qualification, this can trigger a load of events. So with this degree, I can jump straight on the pathway to chartered manager. With my knowledge base in life cycle, facilities management, and surveying, with the support of my degree, I can then tie that in to get my MSIBC, which is a member of the Chartered Institute of Building Services Engineer, which is another little gold star, which also allows me to push towards MRICS as well through the life cycle piece, tied with my academic degree, to become a member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. And then obviously I put the MBA on the end of it, and I think I've got enough initials that I don't need any more for the rest of my lifetime. None of these are quick wins, because they all are like, it's like a road. You need that one to do that one, then that one, then that one, and then you can sort of put them together. But I think I'm going to probably end up more as a supporter and influencer, influencing change in the industry. And it was weird, because I spoke at the Digital Construction Week. I didn't think anybody be that interested, like where you're just talking about the stuff you do on a daily basis, because this is one of the problems we have. We don't realize the value of our own information. So I don't know how many people are in front of me. I don't know, 100, 150 people listen to us talking. Not when I say us, there's 4 of us, not just me, not selfish. 1, 2, yeah, there's 4 of us for different things. We had guys from Open Space that do 360 capture for projects. There's another guy, I forgot what he does. Oh, he's a fire, he deals with fire safety. He's a fire engineer and tied in with I think on the construction side. So apologies, because I haven't looked up his business to actually understand the full background, but his was around the fire side. George owns Active Plan, which is a system for data capture and tying in with your CAFM and asset registers, etc. Then there's me, that's just talking from the perspective of asset management, handovers, and risks associated with a lot of the buildings we're dealing with. But after the speech, it was really weird, because I got then approached by some of the ladies from Autodesk, the guys that do AutoCAD and a lot of other bits and pieces, and they would drag me over to go and speak to other people on their stand that are tied in with the NHS, water companies, and asking if I want to speak at or get involved in other events with them. So it was very good to meet up with these people, because most of us are all on the same page. We're all trying to make the industry better, and we all have the tools to make it better. But it does get back to the decision makers, and there was a lack of decision makers in those events. Because reality is, we need more NHS, we need more local authority, we need more people to understand what is required for the handbacks. And I get the chief execs, I get the government entities may have a lack of interest in doing stuff because they're busy enough already. But this is a bit like, if you don't take the time to invest, because time is your main resource, you'll never have the money for the time. In other words, if you're always busy fixing stuff, when in fact, if you paused, we taught you how to fix it and do it better and smarter and faster and more efficiently, then you'd actually have the time and money to do it right. And it's not because I have all the answers, it's because I sit with all the people that have all the answers, because I'm not a single entity. I think in our BIM group there's a total of about 3,000 members. So it's not a case of it's all about me. I'm just sticking my head out in front to say, we can make this happen, we can make the changes, we can make it better. And I'm not sales pitching anything. So if you do actually want to speak to us and you're saying, I've got this problem, I may give you some companies, but I'm not telling them to call you. I'm telling you to call them, because then you can make the decision if you want to or not. I'm just here to help. I'm not even charging for my time, because I actually want the industry to be better. I want the building to be safer. I don't want another Grenfell in my lifetime. There's no need for it. That's it. I'm off to the gym. Thanks for watching.